Happy Monday. We've got one day to go. I feel like we've been talking about this thing forever until we find out whether or not Jackson County voters are going to go ahead and continue a 3/8 cent sales tax for the Royals and the Chiefs. Of course, we know about the Royals wanting to move downtown, the Chiefs wanting to make their upgrades to Arrowhead Stadium. And we're happy to welcome on the team president for the Kansas City Chiefs, Mark Donovan, joining us on KCMO 95.7 FM. Mark, let's just start here. There's a lot of opinions people have ahead of tomorrow. What do you want to make sure they know from a Chiefs perspective about what tomorrow's vote is about?
Well, I think in broad strokes, we want everyone to know how excited we are and how excited our organization is to continue this fantastic partnership we've had with Jackson County. We've had a long history of being partners, and as an organization, we've had a long history of doing the right things for this community and for our fans, and we look forward to continuing that with a really exciting renovation project at Arrowhead.
What is the biggest thing, and you know, people have seen the renderings and the photos, but in terms of the game day experience with the upgrades you're talking about, what's the most noticeable thing the average fan is going to have with the upgrades you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's really hard to answer. And I say that from the standpoint of there are so many great things that are going to affect every single fan at every single level of the stadium. So I can talk about finally solving this crazy problem we've always had on the upper deck, which is you can't actually walk around our building on the upper deck. To get around the stadium, you actually have to go up and down 4 times. And we're going to fix that with what sounds like a very simple, non-sexy solution of building actually a bridge all the way around. It's going to have a huge impact on our upper level fans, and the fans who are up there understand what that means. There are some trickle-down effects from that as well, which, again, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but when you think about adding this bridge all the way around, you're actually adding restrooms, you're adding concession stands in new locations. And what that does is it disperses the crowd from the existing locations, which are, back up and have lines. Now you disperse that and you give everyone a chance to have a better experience. I would tell you that the sexier answer to that question would be, what I'm really excited about is we set out on this project and said, what if we can bring the very best of the newest stadiums in sports, not just the NFL, but in sports across the world. And we looked at them all. What if we could bring the very best things that they're doing in these new buildings and put them inside this iconic building that we have? Mm-hmm. And we're able to do that. And that's what really gets you excited, because when we looked at, should we build a new stadium? Should we build a dome? Should we build somewhere else? Should we stay here? The one thing we kept coming back to is no one in this world can ever build another Arrowhead. No one could ever recreate this experience. How do we make it better? And that's what I'm excited about.
Mark Donovan, team president for the Chiefs, is on KCMO. I asked this of Royals owner John Sherman when he came on last week. We're out there at opening day, and it's a common theme right now with the populism sentiment that exists on the right and the left in our political climate of the moment, which is, you've got 2 families and 2 ownership groups with a tremendous amount of money. Why is the taxpayer, why should the taxpayer feel like they need to be involved in this by way of a regressive sales tax? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that in today's climate, I think anything is difficult to get consensus on. You can go through a litany of examples of that. I think in our case, I go back to my first point, which is we've had a long history of doing the right things for this county. We've made commitments, we've made investments, and you go back to Ewing Kaufman and you go back to Lamar Hunt. I'll speak on the Hunt family side. It goes far beyond a professional franchise. When you think about what Lamar Hunt did when he brought the stadium, or brought the team here, and he helped design the stadium, and he invested in not only this franchise, but in this community by saying, very first meeting, saying, we've got to be active in this community. We've got to make sure that we're part of this community as an organization if we're going to be successful here. I mean, how many of your listeners had a summer job at Worlds of Fun? Mm-hmm. That's Lamar Hunt. That's an investment he made. That's not in any contract. That's not in any agreement. How many of your listeners are employed by Hun Midwest, a company that he's invested in that continues to invest every single day in this community? So it goes far beyond just the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we can talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I mentioned a few times that we've had a long history of being partners in this community. There are a lot of investments that no one really thinks about that we make in this community, not only to the community asset that is Arrowhead. The stadium itself is a community asset. It's owned by the county. We're the ones who are committing millions and millions of dollars every year to make sure that asset is kept up to speed and kept up to being competitive. And the reality is, after 50 or 60 years, you're going to have to make a major renovation. And that's what we're about to do, and that's what we're willing to invest another $300 million on top of what we've done so far. So I appreciate the concern. I appreciate that is an issue out there. I think when you look at other cities and other sports and other towns, and you say what makes them special, I think that's one of the things that we're proud of. Mm-hmm. The Kansas City helped make Kansas City special.
How, Mark, when you look at how the last couple of weeks have gone down, obviously has been conversation around if the no vote does win out tomorrow, what does that mean? You've talked about exploring other options. Does a part of you and the team, I suppose, regret that it's gotten to this point where there are these what are being perceived as threats if the no vote does win out tomorrow, or are you not seeing it that way?
Yeah, we all wish that this would have been a smoother process. We all wish that we would have gotten to a lot of the points we've gotten in the process a lot quicker. It's unfortunate that people look at it that way, but I understand it. I respect it. One of the things I truly believe in is the democratic process, and we should all do the research, and we should all come to our own conclusions and cast your own vote. I think that when you look at the comment of what happens if, I look at it from a different lens. I look at it from, we've got a great partnership. We've been partners for a long time. We've invested in this community. We're the ones taking the risk on actually creating a concert business at Arrowhead that brings hundreds of thousands of people out to Arrowhead and brings people from all over the world to Arrowhead. I think when you look at what we've done in this particular case is we've taken a really good partnership and we've made it much better for the county. We've made it much better through concessions that we've made to the county executive and to the legislature, that we are going to cover all insurance costs for our buildings, that we are going to cover all or give back the park levy tax, which, those two things themselves equate to over $200 million in benefit. Then we're going to add another $260+ million in community benefit agreements. Then we're going to invest another $3 million in this building. And for all of that, we're asking to extend the existing tax. Mm-hmm. If that isn't something that sways people, if that's not something that people will get on board with, we understand that. But at that point, you've got to sit back and say, we've done an awful lot here. And we were told no. Well, when you're told no, you've got to sit back down and say, okay, where are we? What is the situation? What are our options? And that's what we'll be forced to do. Our plan, our hope, our commitment has always been and continues to be to make Arrowhead the next great stadium for the next 25 years. And that's what we're committed to doing.
How do you look at tomorrow, Mark, from the standpoint of both of these teams? You're obviously both on the same ballot. There's this perception that if the two teams were on different ballots, things might go differently. We know the Royals, and the Royals will admit this, they're the more controversial part of tomorrow's vote. How do you want the Jackson County voter to look at this from the standpoint of saying, hey, this is not just about the Royals, it's also about you guys, the upgrades you're talking about? How should they perceive this when they look at both teams and maybe try to make it about more Chiefs than Royals? I don't know. Is that something that you've thought about here the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, our hope is that they take a very, very complicated situation, which this is. It's very complicated. There are a lot of different moving parts. There are a lot of different parties involved. There are two different stadiums. There's a brand new one. There's a renovation. There's downtown. They're staying at Arrowhead. All those things create confusion and questions. What I would hope is that you simplify it. And the simple facts are There are new taxes as an extension of our existing tax. It is a much better deal than we've had for the last 40 years. And it keeps both teams in Jackson County. And it keeps our vibrancy, the trend that we are on as a city and as a region, heading in the right direction. And that's what we're excited about. So it's very difficult to simplify it to that point. Mm-hmm. But I think if you kind of look at it as much as we've looked at it, it's those simple facts.
Mark Donovan on KCMO, Chiefs team president. Of course, Mark, we appreciate the time. Before we let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, I know the legal process is what it is right now. Is there anything you can share with fans on this Rashee Rice situation that we're all monitoring and looking at right now?
Yeah, I think that in all these situations, you have to wait until you have all the facts. And frankly, we don't have all the facts at this point. The one comforting fact that we do have is that there was a multi-car crash in Texas and in Dallas. And fortunately, it doesn't appear that anyone was hurt. And we should be grateful for that. We'll get to the bottom of it. We'll gather the facts, and then we'll react accordingly.
Mark Donovan, Chiefs team president on KCMO. Mark, thank you so much. Good luck tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Appreciate your time.
All right. Mark Donovan, Chiefs team president on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, and, of course, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.